through your fingers. Now, we're going to get into it pretty quickly. And so today we're going to be going into a little bit of detail on how you can tell if you are letting your career slip through your fingers, what else you can be doing to make sure you're not letting your career slip through your fingers. So we're going to get going pretty quickly. Let's go. We're talking about letting your career slip through your fingers. And we're going to go right away in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about letting your career slip through your fingers. Now, the story I want to start with is from one of my podcasts way back now. I believe episode 12, if I am not mistaken. And it was with a guy named Marcus Adams, who was a 10-year veteran of the CFL. And he talked about getting cut after his first season. And instead of doing what most people do, which would be say, well, pro football is clearly not for me. I'm going to go back. I'm going to just, get my regular 9-to-5 job, and I'm going to be off to the races. What Marcus did is he trained every fucking minute that he possibly could, so that he could keep in shape, so that if another team called him, he would be ready to go. Now, in that podcast, I talked to him about this, and I was like, what motivated you to keep going? What motivated you to keep pushing forward, even though the career that you wanted looked less and less and less likely through that time? And he said, plain and simple, he didn't want to look back at 50 and wonder if he could have done more. He didn't want to look back at 50 years old and say, what if I just stuck it out another year? What if I had just, put myself out there for one more training camp? What if I had been able to play one more season? What if I'd been able to do something different with my life instead of getting stuck at this 9-to-5 job that I didn't like? And now he coaches football in the States, but he was able to play 10 years after getting cut from his first training camp. And the mentality was not wanting to look back at 50 years old and ask, what if? And this is something I see a lot of athletes talk about in their careers, but also this is something I see a lot of up and coming athletes messing up right from day one, is they're not doing the things that are going to allow them to look back and really say that they gave it their all and that they actually did everything they could to be successful in their sport. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about what you can do to make sure you're not leaving your career up to chance, what you can do to make sure you're not letting your career slip through your fingers. Now, one of the things I see a lot of athletes say is they talk about, when they're going to be ready to take it more seriously. They talk about having goals of making it to the professional levels, talk about having goals of making a living in their sport, but they talk about how, oh yeah, a couple years down the road when, I'm at a higher level, then I'll start really making it my #1 priority. And I just want to reiterate that for you. So what you're saying is you want to do something that 99% plus of the world can only ever dream of, because less than 1% of athletes that actually start competing ever make a living at it. And you're going to delay taking it seriously because what, you're not old enough yet? You're not ready yet? Why are you going to delay it? But I hear athletes talk about this stuff all the time. They're taking months off of training. People that want to be at the top of the top of the top level, they're taking months off of training because they don't have a fight booked right now. So, there's no point of training hard right now. I don't have anything booked, so whatever. But meanwhile, 99% of the athletes that are in your position right now will never do what you say you want to do with your career, yet you're taking a month off. This is just one of those mentalities that, look, I get it. You want to go on vacation. You want to, hang out with the boys. You want to do all that shit that, teenage or early 20s kind of people do. But if you want to be in the 1%, you want to be at the top of the top, and you're sitting here saying that you can afford a whole month off. You're sitting here saying that this next 4 weeks, this next 30 days, you don't need to be pushing yourself. You don't need to be working towards that goal right now because, well, I got a vacation. Vacation from fucking what? You haven't made it anywhere yet. And so that's just one of the big things that I always see athletes really struggle with is that mentality of understanding that you're not just going to make it to the top. You're not just going to wake up one day and have Dana White knock on your door and say, "Hey, do you want a UFC contract?" Like, no, the actions that you put in today create that result or don't create that result. So if you're taking a month off, 3 months off, and that is actually a real thing that I had an athlete tell me, I'm just going to take the next 3 months off because I don't have anything booked right now. If you're taking 3 months off, how do you expect that you're going to rise above 99% of the other athletes in your current position? You're just not. But when you start to step into these places, when you start to, slack off a little bit here and there, take these long periods of time off, in your head, you're doing what everyone else is doing because, oh yeah, everybody takes vacations. It's no big deal. But what you're forgetting is that not everyone else wants to be in the 1% of their field. And if you don't want to be in the 1% of your field, if you don't want to make a living in your sport, you don't want to make a living doing what you love, you don't want to become a professional, then fine, do whatever you want. This advice is for the people that are looking to rise to the top in that area. Even if you feel like it's not a big deal because I don't have a fight booked right now, understand that that month that you're just taking off is a month that you could be getting 30 days better. You could be pushing yourself 30 days closer towards that goal of being the 1% of the population in your fucking field. And you're just letting it go. So the next thing I want to talk about in that track tracks really well with this is losing track of priorities. Something else I see a lot of athletes do, and something else I see a lot of athletes struggle with, is losing track of their priorities. So again, you're telling me every day, I want to make it to the top. I want to be the best. I want to, be on that pound for pound fighters list. And then this is the same athlete that is going to go out and get drunk on their birthday and say, well, it's no big deal. It's my birthday. True, it's your birthday. It only happens once a year. But what's more important, you getting drunk on your birthday or you having that extra day to push you towards that elite high-level goal you have for your career? Because, yeah, any one night out or any one, week off or any, little thing here, little thing there might not make the difference, but it might. So you got to ask yourself, how much can I afford to take these times off? How much can I afford to, just fuck off and get drunk on my birthday instead of being ready for training the next day? How often can I do that before it's too many times? Because again, it's all about priorities. If you say that you want to be the best in the world, you say that you want to get to the top level, you want to be in the 1%, you need to act like it. Even if you're not there yet, you need to act like it. You need to do the things now that are required for you to reach that kind of level. And again, this comes to, those days away or those vices or things like that, like I was talking about, but this also just comes to day-to-day life. I understand that it's easy and it's convenient to stop at McDonald's on the way to the gym, but are you going to get more out of your training session eating shitty food? Or are you going to get more out of your training session by being a fucking adult, preparing actual meals, and then eating some proper fuel before going to train? From experience doing both, I'm going to tell you it's probably the second one. So if you have a goal of being in that 1%, you have a goal of reaching the top in your career, understand that life doesn't care. Life doesn't care. Things are still going to get in the way. But the difference between the ones who are going to make it and the ones who aren't are the way they attack those days when life gets in the way. It's crazy to me the amount of times I've had athletes tell me, oh yeah, I'm still really committed, but like life's busy right now. It's like, cool, life's always going to be fucking busy. How do you handle it? And if your way of handling it is just putting training aside, then that's a problem. That's not the action of someone who's going to make it to that top level that you want to make it to. But if when things get in the way, when things get busy, when things are stressful, you figure out how to work around it and you figure out what you can still manage in order to keep pushing towards the goals you have, those are the actions of the person that's going to actually end up being successful. And one thing on that, I've had conversations with some of my athletes about this before, that, I've fallen off track a little bit because I get it. It happens. This isn't meant to call anybody out. But one thing I've had a lot of athletes tell me before is they're very either all in or all out, right? It's like they've got to be training every day or they're just not training at all. And that is a massive mistake that so many of you guys are making. Instead of taking the attitude of, all in or all out, understand that there are going to be times that, life gets in the way, like I said. And if life's getting in the way, if you're struggling to make it to training every single day, figure out what you can still handle. Figure out what you can be consistent with. If right now it's, okay, I can only make 3 training sessions a week, but I'm going to make sure that I'm there and I'm present for those 3 training sessions a week. Well, yeah, it's not 6 sessions a week like you probably want, but you can make good concentrated progress in those 3 sessions a week. And if you're making good concentrated progress within those 3 sessions a week, you're still improving. You're still making progress towards that final goal of making it to that top level that you say you want. So instead of having the all in, all out mentality, if you truly want to make sure that your career doesn't slip through your fingers and you actually reach the potential you want to reach, figure out what you can stay consistent with and do that. I have athletes competing at a national level that do 2 strength and conditioning sessions a week. Is that the best ultimate, best way for anyone and everyone to train? Of course not. Everybody's going to have different setups. But for those people, with the way their schedules are, with the way their training sessions are and their work schedules are, this is what we can stay consistent with. So doing this each and every week, no matter what, is allowing them to see phenomenal results with a minimal load when it comes to their strength and conditioning work. And that's what I really want to get across with that, is stop thinking that you need to be perfect. Stop thinking that you need to do everything, work the hardest out of anybody, do the most out of anyone. You don't need to do the most. You need to stick to what you can stick to, but stick to it religiously. These guys that are doing 2 sessions a week and still seeing phenomenal results, the reason is because they're doing 2 sessions every week. They're not sticking with it for a month, dropping off for 2 weeks, sticking with it for 3 months, dropping off for 6 weeks. They're doing it every week, no matter fucking what. And that's what a lot of people are missing too. They talk about it and they say, oh yeah, I train 6 days a week. But then when you actually break it down, they train 6 days a week for a few weeks and then their body breaks down a little bit, so they're off for a week, and then they're back into the gym, they go super hard, and then they drop off. Or they're doing it 6 days a week, but they're training like fucking trash. And what's going to do better? 3 to 4 hard days of good intentional training or 6 days a week of dog shit? You've got to understand what you can stay consistent with. You've got to understand what you can build off of. And that's the way you're going to see success. Now, the last piece I wanted to touch on here, and this is probably the most important of the whole episode, is fear of failure. Because this is something I see a lot of athletes, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not, this is something I see with a lot of you out there. You talk about, wanting to go all in. You talk about, wanting to reach the top level. You talk about wanting to be the best. But you don't put in the action that's required to get there. And honestly, the reason is because you're afraid that even if I put in all this action, I put in all this work, I do everything that's required, I might not make it. And what if I do this and then in 5 or 10 years, it doesn't work out? Now, that's a very real possibility. I'm not sitting here telling everyone that just work hard and every dream you ever had will come true. But what I want you to understand is the only way to make sure that it doesn't work out is to not put in the actions now that are required for you to achieve the level you want to achieve. If you want to make the UFC, you need to train like someone who wants to make the UFC now. You can't afford to not be lifting weights or doing conditioning work. You can't afford to be taking 3 months off training. You can't afford to not have your sport as a top priority if you want to get to the top of the sport. And this doesn't just mean the training in the gym, but this means your nutrition. This means your recovery. This means every area of your life needs to be on point. Every area of your life needs to be separating you from that other 99%. Because guys, that top level, whether it's the UFC, One Championship, Bellator, the people that are actually making a living competing, that is less than 1% of the people that start competing. And if you want to be a part of that, training hard every day isn't fucking enough. Everyone's doing that. Everyone with any dream of making it to that level is in the gym 4, 5, 6 days a week training hard. So you need to ask yourself, what areas am I not measuring up in? What areas am I not doing as much as I can in? Maybe you're training hard, but your nutrition is crap. Maybe you're training hard, but you don't actually know what kind of training you're supposed to be doing. Maybe you're training hard, your nutrition's on point, but you're sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night. Maybe you're training hard, your nutrition's on point, your sleep is good, but your body's just tight and sore all the time, and you need to focus on your mobility. There's always another area that you can be doing more in. There's always another area that you could be learning more about, that you can be investing in, that you can be helping yourself reach new levels. And these are the things that are going to separate you. So many people think their work ethic is going to separate them. Oh, I work harder than anybody. It's like, cool. Guess what? Out of your gym, the chances are no one's going to make it. And if someone makes it, it's going to be 1, 2, maybe 3 guys that make it or girls that make it. And so you're not aiming to be better than the people you train with. You're aiming to be in the top 1% in the world. So what you're doing right now may just not be enough. And maybe it is. Maybe you're on a good track, but is that good track that you're on going to hold you through every single level all the way to the top and all the way to having the career that you want? Because again, it might not work out. You might not make it to the absolute top. You might not win the world championship. You might not end up on the pound for pound list. But the only way to absolutely be certain that you're not going to achieve those things that you're looking for is by not putting in the work, putting in the investment, and betting on yourself now. That is the only way to make sure that it's not going to happen. Because if you're not doing it and someone else is, then over time, they're going to overtake you. So I want this to be the wake-up call. I want this to be the moment that you can look back and you can say, these are the areas I'm not measuring up in. These are the areas that I could be doing more in. These are the areas that I'm not taking as seriously as I should. And as soon as you can admit that to yourself, as soon as you can become aware of that, now you can do something to change it. You can make one move today that's going to level that up, that's going to change that, and that's going to set you on the path you need to be set on to actually achieve the goals you have. Because yeah, investing money in yourself when you don't have a lot of money is hard. Yeah, investing hours every day when you're already working a full-time job is hard. Yeah, training 6 days a week is hard. Yeah, doing the extra mobility work, getting the 8 hours of sleep when you want to stay up, watch TV or play video games or whatever it is you do. All those things are hard. But what else is even more difficult, coming back to the beginning of this episode, is looking back at your career at 50 years old and going, fuck, I could have done more. Fuck, I wish I had taken it more seriously. Fuck, I wish I had put in that extra time, put in that extra money, really seen where I could have gone to. And that's what I want to make sure you're avoiding. So guys, I hope you got some good value from this. I hope you learned something. If you did, I'd love to know what it is. Drop me a comment if you're here live, or drop a comment on the YouTube video, the podcast, anywhere else that you're seeing this. And as always, my big ask of you is that if you got some value from the show today, share it with a friend, share it with a teammate, share it with a coach. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, the podcast, all that other good stuff. All the notes on how to do that are going to be in the show notes below. So I appreciate you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next episode. All right. Appreciate you sticking around. I don't know why, but StreamYard will never let me see who's actually here. So appreciate you. Have a great day.